Good morning, friends. So as part of this session, we will continue on Sqoop. Let us recap where we are. In this second part of these sessions, we are actually uh, preparing on the other areas with respect to the certifications. We started with HDFS. We understand different HDFS commands, and we have been using to copy files into HDFS or to get files from HDFS wherever it is applicable. We are using that. And then we started with Sqoop. We understood how to get started, how to validate whether we are able to connect to the database or not. Once that is done, we started exploring the Sqoop import command. And you can get help of Sqoop import by saying Sqoop help import. And we are slowly going one parameter at a time. Okay. We have seen what is append. Append is if the directory already exists, and if you want to add more data to the existing directory in HDFS, we use append. And to deal with the file format, there are 4 file formats. Text file is default. By default, data will be written to HDFS in the text file format. Okay, just 1 minute. Okay, so and then we have seen sequence file. Sequence file is nothing but binary format. And I have explained what is Avro. Avro is JSON in binary format, and Parquet is columnar format. So these are the 4 formats which are supported out of the box by Sqoop. And then we have auto reset to one mapper. If you don't have primary key on a table, if you say auto reset to one mapper, it will automatically convert it into one mapper. If there is a primary key on the table, either it will use the default number of mappers, which is 4, or whatever you specify as part of num-mappers or -m. And then boundary query, which is very important. It is to address the skew. We have actually created a scenario and tested how a boundary query can make the difference. In that process, we created one order item with ID 10 lakhs or something. And then we have seen that all the data 1 to 172,198 is processed by one thread, and 10 lakhs is processed by another thread, and 2 threads are completely empty. And to address those extreme conditions and take care of skewness, we can use boundary query. Okay. And now we will proceed further. What is columns? What is compression codec? What is direct, etc. Okay. So far as part of the Sqoop import, okay, I think it is deleted from the history. 1 minute, let me see. Yeah, this is the one. This is the one which is used for boundary condition. So far we have fetched all the columns from the order items table. But sometimes we don't want to fetch certain tables for several reasons. One, let's say you want to run analytics on employees in an employee database. You just want to see who are the top performing employees in the department, or you just want to see which department or which subcategory in the department is taking up a lot of is becoming a lot more expensive to the organization. For all those things, which are for all those reports which are very high level, which does not require critical information such as employee ID or SSN for an employee, that information need not be required for most of the reports. And also for compliance reasons, we should not copy NPI or private data into the downstream databases. So for whatever reason, if you want to discard certain columns and only import a subset of columns, what you can do is you can specify hyphen columns, and you can specify the names of the columns. So now if we run this command, okay, and hit enter, what will happen is, to process data and also to get the metadata and all, it uses select star from to read data from the table. When you use columns, whatever you have specified in the columns, it will replace the star with those column names, and it will only fetch the metadata of those columns. And eventually, while issuing the query in the database, it will only use those columns which are specified under the columns. So eventually, it will only read the data from the columns which are specified as part of the hyphen columns. So that is the relevance of columns. I will demonstrate that in conjunction with some other argument, so that we can reduce the number of times we can run these demos. Okay, and delete target directory I have already mentioned when I actually specified about append. The default behavior is, if the directory already exists, if the target directory already exists, it will fail saying that directory already exists. In this case, you can see that. Okay, so we have tried to run the Sqoop import on the table order items underscore no pk, reading from the source database into the target database, because into HDFS. Because the directory which is specified under target directory already exists, it failed saying that already exists. Append is to append to the existing one. So if you use append, it will create, it will copy whatever data that is read from the source into that HDFS location. It will create new set of files, and those new set of files will have the copy of data which is copied as part of that run. Instead of append, if you say delete target directory, it will replace this directory and it will copy the data again into that location. So here I can say delete target directory, and also I want to show the power of columns. So order items have 6 columns. Let me connect to MySQL here. Retail underscore DBA HNN01 itversity.com-p, and password is itversity. Okay, now if I go to retail underscore import, so this is the database which we are using, and then in this we have described, we are trying to describe order items underscore no underscore pk. This is the table which we are trying to get the data from. There are 6 fields in this table, and let's say I don't want product price for whatever reason. I just need order item ID, order item order ID, order item product ID, order item quantity, order item subtotal. So I can specify those things as part of the columns. You have to specify in the double quote, otherwise it does not know. It does not know that it will not consider the entire stuff as one string, and it can fail. So for that reason, you have to use double quotes, order item order ID, and then order item product ID, order item quantity, and then order item subtotal. So Sqoop actually provide some flexibility when it comes to do minimal transformations. In this case, we are just discarding some of the columns while copying the data into HDFS using Sqoop. Now if we run, because it has delete target directory, it will first delete the order items no pk directory in HDFS, and then it will actually read the data and copy it into HDFS. So here to read the metadata, it is still using t dot star. I don't know why. We need to see. Let us see. Let us see that it does not fail. Probably it might be getting metadata, but it might be using only the fields which we have specified in the columns that we can validate by going into the Java file. Okay, now it is done. And now take this location. First, let us understand whether it has copied 5 fields or 6 fields. Hadoop fs minus ls. These are the files. And then I want to use tail. Now you can see there are only 5 fields. And also if you go here, we are talking about this one. It is not created now. It is using the earlier one only. That means the Java file, it is actually querying the entire table to read the metadata, but to fetch the data later, it is actually using only the columns which are specified in the columns clause. Others are not considered. Okay, so that is the relevance about columns. And also we have demonstrated about delete target directory. It will just delete and it will reload the data into the directory. Now if we go back to the Sqoop help import again and start looking into other parameters. So we have covered up to delete target directory. Compression codec is actually to compress the files. So you are reading huge amounts of data, and for whatever reasons you want to compress the data. Then there are 2 parameters with respect to compression. One is compress codec, and there is one more, -z or -- compress. So this is like a switch. If you want to compress, you have to say compress -- compress, then it will actually enable the compression, otherwise it will not. And then compression codec is the algorithm using which you want to compress the data. And how to determine which algorithms you can use. So here I'm trying to cover 2 parameters in one shot, compress and compression codec, because both are related. If you don't use compression codec, it will use the default compression codec. What is the default compression codec and how to override that, and what are the eligible algorithms? For that, again, you have to go to the parameter files. Okay. So if you go to etc hadoop conf and go to codesite.xml. Okay, in this we are talking about compression. So these are the compression codecs which are supported as of now. One is gzip codec, other one is default codec, and the third one is snappy codec. I think with respect to Sqoop, the default is gzip. So if you just say -- compress, it will be compressed using gzip codec. So you will see files with gz extension. If you want to use some other algorithm, first it has to be registered here. So as of now, the cluster is built with only these 3 algorithms, and these are registered algorithms. If you want to use other algorithms such as LZO, etc., first you have to make sure those binaries are available with you, and it has to be copied into a class path, and then you have to update this property so that we can use that algorithm also in the cluster. Otherwise, you will not be able to use that new compression algorithm. So it's a multi-step process. Okay. Anyway, we don't need to get into details, but you should understand, if you want to use any other algorithm than whatever are there as part of IO compression codecs, as part of Hadoop cluster, big data cluster, first you need to make sure that the binaries are available and added to class path, and it is registered with this property, only then you will be able to use. Okay, but that being said, even if you cannot update this one, as long as you have the jar file, you can override this parameter at runtime also. Okay, that's a different story. Anyway, don't worry too much about it at this time. For now, let us understand how to enable compression and how to change the algorithm. So I will run two Sqoop jobs, one with default and the other one with non-default. We will see both. Okay, for that, let us copy this path, because the path is important when we actually use the different algorithms later. Okay, so let us copy that one. Exit, cd. Okay, here I'm using order items. I don't want to store it in Avro format. I want to just store it in regular format. And I am using delete target directory so that it can overwrite. And first I am running using -- compress, or you can also say -z. Both are aliases. So for some of the Sqoop parameters, they provide aliases. Like for num mappers, you have -em. For compress, you have -z. These are shortcuts. And hit enter. So now it is done. And you can say, let us take the path. Hadoop fs-ls and hit enter. You can see the GZ extension here. So that even though at the cluster level, default is default codec. For Sqoop, gzip is the default algorithm. Okay. So when it comes to compression, if you want to dig into further details, you need to understand what is splittable compression, what is a non-splittable compression. I have nice videos on my YouTube channel. You can go there, or you can actually say YouTube ITversity compression, and you will see the videos related to those things. And you can actually go to this compression theory video, where I have explained what is splittable compression, what is non-splittable compression, etc. Okay, and how the performance will be different. I think I have demonstrated also in these videos. And now I don't want to get into too many details about the compression concepts here. We just try to use the compression. Now we will try to use the non-default compression. Here, for that you have to say compression codec, and then if you are not sure about the parameter, you always use Sqoop help import, and then go search for the parameter related to compression. You will get it. So here I'm trying to use snappy codec, and hit enter. You have to give the fully qualified class name, and to use that, the associated jar files has to be in the class path. So as part of the cluster setup, it is taken care automatically because we are using Hortonworks platform. In some cases, it will not be taken care automatically. You might have to do it manually. For example, if I want to use a different algorithm now on the cluster, first I need to get the binaries, register with the existing cluster, update the parameters, and then only we will be able to use. So now let us look into here. Order items, you can see the extension as snappy. Okay, and you can quickly review the output of the earlier one. So here it is 257 KB, approximately 250 KB each. and here it is 450 KB each. So you can automatically say that gzip compression will give much better compression rate than Snappy. However, I think Snappy is splittable compression, whereas gzip is not. So while processing the data, Snappy might perform better over gzip. So there will be performance difference for the benefit you got from storage perspective when you use gzip. Again, to understand those in detail, you have to explore further, understand the differences between Snappy and gzip from the Hadoop context, and then you will be able to determine. Okay, so now again, I'm using Sqoop help import and see what else needs to be covered. And most of the certifications will not even go to that level. But these things are very important for you to develop the applications. Okay, so direct. So there is a concept called direct import when it comes to MySQL. So you can read data from a database using multiple ways. One, using select query. When you use select query, it uses memory, it does IO, and there is a lot more overhead than if you can bypass the memory when by issuing select query. If you want to read the data, if you directly want to read the files, your IO channels will be more active, and you can directly extract the data without doing IO and read the data into memory. So direct is that instead of issuing select query onto the tables, it can actually fetch the files directly, and then it can pass the information from those files. Sqoop can actually read it. If it is MySQL or Postgres, you can use this direct switch, and the performance can be faster while accessing the larger data sets. And then direct split size, I think as it will not submit query on the direct, probably you might have to say the direct split size if you want to use if you want to play with the split size. I never used direct because in production when I worked on SQL Server and Informix and Oracle databases. I never worked on MySQL or Postgres from the production perspective, and these parameters are primarily for MySQL and Postgres only. Okay, it will not work with other databases. So I'm not 100% sure on this, but the concept is that if it is MySQL or Postgres, if you use direct, performance can be better if there are no transformations on the data. Okay, and then query. So far we have given table to fetch the data, and then we specified columns if you want to fetch certain set of columns from the table. If you want to get the output of the query, okay, then you can say ---- query. Either you have to use ---- table, or you can use ---- query. You cannot mix both. Okay, so I will demonstrate here. It is very important feature using query. So instead of using table here, either you can use table or query. You cannot use both. You can write any valid query. Okay, select star from order items. So what happens is there are few issues with respect to query. With respect to table, using the table name, Sqoop is smart enough to get whether the table have primary key or not, and it will use the primary key to apply the split logic. When we use query, if the Sqoop developers have to determine, sorry, 1 minute, okay. So let me actually write it in multiple lines so that it is clear. Okay, let me figure this out. Let me increase the size of it, even if it takes some time because it's becoming hassle. File, edit. I don't know where is zoom. Just give me a moment. It should be under view typically. Sidebar, full screen layout, groups. Yeah, sorry, there was a power cut. Let me reconnect the YouTube session and then we will start. So sorry, whoever is on YouTube live, there was a power cut. That's why it got disconnected. Um, you should be able to see me now. If not, please ping on chat. Let me share my screen. Hello? Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, I'm able to hear you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry, the power got disconnected again, and so what happens is there will be a small glitch in our apartment whenever power goes off and comes back. So that's where the issue is. Okay, so now let us start. Yeah, you will get it in a moment. There was power cut in our apartment, and that was the issue. Okay, so now let us start. I'm sharing my screen again. Okay, so we are talking about this also will be gone. So we have to log in again. And also I need to make sure that recording is still going on. Yeah, luckily recording is not disconnected. And we are talking about this command. So if you guys are familiar with how to zoom in the Sublime text, please let me know. It will be of great help. I'm struggling to find this out. Okay, thank you, Kamleshwar. Okay, preferences, settings, tools. Okay, preferences, settings. Okay, thank you. Okay, now better. Thank you very much, Kamleshwar. Okay, now this is the command which we are trying to run. So now what will happen is if we give query, the Sqoop developers did not try to fetch the table names which are mentioned in the select query and check whether the primary key exists or not. Only with the table, they have taken care of that. So the side effect of that is if we use default. One minute, let me again it. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, you can hear me. Yeah. So here, as the Sqoop developers have not taken care of passing this select statement and then validating whether it has primary key or not. You cannot specify number of mappers directly without split by or any other logic. So if I just run this, there will be another issue where it will fail. I will explain. So yeah, you can see that because it cannot go to the table and check whether it has primary key or not, they are asking us to either use a split by, or you can also say num mappers as 1. Either of them will work. Okay. Now let us try split by first. Even split by will fail. I will explain why it will fail if it fails. split by, and here I am trying to split by order item, order ID, sorry, order item ID, which is the primary key and indexed column. So always when you split by on a large table, make sure the column is indexed. Otherwise, to get the min and max itself, it will take forever on a very large table. And hit enter. Now it is complaining with another weird issue. And I don't know, most of you are application developers. So if you think about it, the select query, select star from order items. This is the query we are talking about. And typically, we would like to generate a dynamic query based upon the selection criteria. Okay. So whenever we have to add selection criteria or filter conditions on the query, if you are an application developer as part of your DAO logic, if you are dynamically generating this query without using Hibernate or something, so what we will do, if it is the first condition, first you need to check that existing query have the where or not, are already existing conditions or not. If it is the first condition, then you have to say where and then condition 1. If the query string already have the where condition, and if you are doing if you are trying to add one more condition to the existing query, what you will do, you will say end condition 2 and condition 3, like that you will be adding. So for this query, if you don't have where condition, you need to have that additional logic to add where if it is first condition, or keep on adding conditions if it is not first condition, right? So Sqoop developers don't want to take that pain to validate whether where is already there or not. So they force us to add this one, where dollar conditions, which will always return true, which is like where 1 equal to 1. So this dollar conditions will be replaced by them at runtime with 1 equal to 1, which always returns true. And then depending upon other conditions we use in subsequent control argument. So here, if I say Sqoop help input, and if I scroll up, on top of query there is a where also. Okay, if it is hyphen table, and if you say table name, and if you put conditions with the where clause, it will apply those where conditions and it will fetch the data. With query also you can use where condition. Okay, so if it is to reuse the same logic, whether it is table or query, they are asking us to put this placeholder, so that they don't need to worry about adding this. If it is first condition, add where and then have the condition. Every time they just want to use and whatever you have specified here in the where clause. Okay, so that's why we have to use this where dollar conditions also. So the issue is here we are trying to run it as a Linux command, and in Linux the Linux variables are represented by dollar and then whatever name you give. So it will try to resolve into a Linux variable because we are running it as Linux command, and it will return null. So if I run this command, even then it will fail. Okay, because it is not able to identify. You can see here the query select star from order items where, and it does not have this dollar condition because it tried to replace whatever value is there in dollar conditions in the where, and that's why it is failing. So to fix that, you have to escape this one. So the way you can escape is, I think, backslash. If it failed, then we will see. I do not remember whether it is backslash or forward slash. It's backslash. Now it will somewhere it will display the query which it will run. We will see that. See here, your dollar conditions is replaced by 1 equal to 1. And you can see the min and max query is run on top of this because we have used split by. Okay, so these are the side effects of using query. With the table, it is smart enough to get the primary key and use that one to parallelize the to use multiple mappers to process the data. With query, the Sqoop developers did not care to parse because you can put any query here. Here we are only copying a simple output of a simple query. Sometimes we can actually join multiple tables and we can actually copy data from which is output of a join query. So if they start identifying, if they start passing this query and get if they start passing this select query and get the table name and identify whether it has primary key or not, if you start using more complex queries such as joins and all, it will become a lot more complex for them. That's why as a thumb rule, they did not allow multiple threads unless you specify split by clause when it comes to query. Okay, and also I have explained the relevance of this. You have to use this as part of your logic. And query is also very powerful. So for example, now I want to get a join output of orders and order items. I don't need to fetch both the tables and join on the downstream. I can actually join on the upstream and get the join output and load into the target table. One step will be reduced as part of my workflow. Okay, so query is very, very powerful. Even though we don't use so frequently, it is a very important argument, control argument. Okay, and now as we are talking about query, we will also talk about where. That is correct. If the num mapper is equal to 1, split by is not relevant. So even if you specify split by, it will not use the split by. Okay. So now go back to here. Again, check for Sqoop help import. So far, what we have covered append all the 4 file formats: auto reset to one mapper, boundary query, columns, compression codec and compress, delete target directory, direct and direct split size. Theoretically, we have covered. We have covered query, and we have covered num mappers. We have covered split by. We can also say split limit when we want to use non-numeric values. I think you can also use split limit. We will see that. We will see the use case for split limit also very soon. But for now, we will actually check the where clause. Even compress is covered. Okay, and validator I will try to cover tomorrow. All together I will try to cover in one shot. So where clause is also very, very important control argument, and most of the trainers will not cover all these parameters. They will try to wrap up Sqoop very quickly within 4 to 8 hours, and they will get into all unnecessary details about how it will run internally, rather than to explain all these control arguments and explain the use cases where these control arguments can use in tandem. Okay, so where is another very important control argument? It comes handy for your incremental imports. So let's say you have 1,000 records as of yesterday. You imported, and today 10 more records are added, and you have to capture only those 10 records. And where can be used to get that? And then we have covered eval, right? So what will happen? Let's say today is the first day, or yesterday is the first day when we ran this Sqoop import. We got whatever is there in the table yesterday. Once the import is done, immediately after the import is done, we can actually query the database and find the maximum value up to which we captured the data. And then in the subsequent run, using that information which is captured using eval, we can actually generate the query for the subsequent run using where condition, and we can actually capture the delta. Okay, so that's where condition will come very handy for the incremental load. There are few arguments for incremental loads directly provided by Sqoop import, but more than that, where is much more flexible. Those are not so flexible. I will cover those also a little bit later, or tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So here, let us see the use case for where. Okay, so when you specify where, you can have whatever condition you want. Okay, in this case, let's say I want to get only orders between 1 to 100 and 1000 to 10,000. I can say order item order ID between 1 and 10, or order item order ID 100 and 10,000. So this is the where condition which you want to add. So it can be used either with query or with table. Okay, so now we can actually run this. And hit enter. And here it is not using the query which is mentioned or conditions which are mentioned in the where clause to get the min and max. You can see here, select it is directly querying the data from whatever we have passed as part of the orders, and then it is assuming 1 and 172,198 as the boundary, and it is fetching data in that range. It is creating threads in that range. Okay, it is saying retrieved 172,198 records and map output records as 172,198. So now let us validate whether actually data is filtered or not. Okay, for that we have to go here, Hadoop fs-ls, and hit enter. It fetched everything. How come? Let me see. So where condition is there. I think when we use query, it might not use where. Let me try this. Let me say table order items. Now it is actually validating the syntax. There seems to be some issue with the syntax. Okay, yeah, here I have to say between. So it is not even touching where to validate when we use query. Okay, so now let us this is why it's an open source. So you will hit all these kind of unexpected behavior. So unless you practice, you will not know what is going on. Now it is actually generating proper data. Okay, so split size is only 6,243. We are only getting 24,976. And also, even in the min and max condition, it actually applied that where condition, so that it actually identify what is the min and max value that it has to get, and then it used the data to be split. Okay, so there are 6,243 records, and those okay, I think I'm using order ID here, order item ID, not order item ID. So that's why, as I'm using a different column than primary key column, here split size is saying 6,243, but data is 24,779. Okay, so this is how you can use where. It seems where have no significance when we use in conjunction with query. Let me try with valid query now and see if it works. Yeah, it is not working. It is not considering the where condition when you are using query. So probably their expectation is when you use query, use everything in query itself, rather than using where and query together. Probably where work with only table. At least they should have thrown error saying that where cannot be used with query, but they are not. Okay, so that is about where condition. Very powerful. It seems to be working with only with table. Typically, when we use query, we can use this condition as part of the query itself, and it will take care for you. Any questions here? Okay, now let us see what are all missing. We will talk about rest of the things tomorrow. So these validations, validation arguments are missing, are not covered yet. And then merge key is not covered, and then MapReduce job name is not covered. Few of these things are not covered. We will try to cover as many as possible. I'm also not 100% sure on some of those things, and I will pass on. You can explore. Yeah, another one is inline lob limit. So if you are familiar with RDBMS, there is a data type called lob. So if you have a data, if you have a record, let me open Excel blank worksheet workbook. Okay, so typically a table call will be like this. Let's talk about employee table. You will have ename, EID, ename, salary, designation, etc. And if you want to store his documentation for whatever reason, a zip file of all his documents as proof, let's say his mark lists, etc. They are all files, and they are typically non-searchable files, but we want to tag them along with this employee. So what we can do, we can create a object columns with data types such as lob, which is large object. And if it is, let's say, documents, documentation, and if it have a few files or zip file with all the documentations of that employee, the data will look like this. Employee ID, which is unique ID, will be stored, and then name, and then salary, and then manager as designation, let's say. But when it comes to documentation, as we are actually trying to store larger files, there will be only pointer to the file, and then the file itself will be stored somewhere on the database files within the database. So when we are trying to import these tables which have lob columns, what we can do is, here we can set inline lob limit. So what it will do, depending upon the size you have specified here, it will go to the file and get whatever extent you want based upon the size you have specified after inline lob limit, and it will fetch up to that part, and it will append to the existing file in HDFS. So in this case, let's take the example. Let's say this is the file that one docs, because employee ID 1, I'm just cooking up some name for here, and let's say there is a lot of text here, lot of stuff in that. Let's say this have only text content, and if you want to store inline along with the other data set when it is stored in HDFS, let's say you want to fetch only first 5 characters in HDFS, it will look like this. If as we are using comma separated file, it will look like one comma name comma salary, which is 10,000, manager designation, and whatever first 5 characters which is specified as the lob limit. So instead of storing the pointer, it will fetch the data from the lob files, and it will append to the data while being stored in HDFS. So that is the purpose of inline lob limit. You can give it a try. You can create a table which have lobs, which is of type, which have column of type lob within MySQL, and you can actually try with this inline lob limit and see how it behaves while storing into HDFS. Okay, and then we have a few other arguments for Hive, HBase, HCatalog, etc. I'll be covering only Hive up to some extent, and then we will get onto the next command, import all tables. Between this, I will give an exercise, and then you can complete that exercise also. Probably day after tomorrow, we will have a detailed exercise on Sqoop import. I will create few scenarios. You have to execute it based on those scenarios. That being said, I have also created a new database. The user is NYSC RO, NYSC read only, and host is same, nn01.itversity.com, and -p, password is itversity, and use NYSC, which is the database name, and show tables. So there is a table called stocks_EOD. You can use this one, stocks_EOD. Okay, this is New York Stock Exchange data, end of day data. So for each and every day, for each and every stock ticker for past 20 years, whatever is the stock price is stored in this table. Okay, you can actually run select star from stocks EOD limit and you can query the data. So this is how it look like. You have stock ticker, you have trade date, you have open price, you have high price, low price, close price, and volume. Okay, and also you can do select count from stocks EOD. So I will be giving exercise on this because it has 9 million records, 9,384,000 records. It will give a lot more. Means you can benchmark by running the Sqoop import with a different number of mappers, etc. Because it has quite a bit of data in it. The overall size is only 200 MB or 300 MB. It's not a very big data set, but it is a good quality data which can be used for different purposes. So if you have time, if you want to explore this before I give that, use this database also. With 4 or 5 tables which are related to each other. And if you want to share with me, you can share. I will do the necessary massage to the data to store into MySQL, and I will create database for you. You can play with that also. I want to give you as many data sets as possible to explore. If you have any, please share with me. Okay, so that being said, we'll continue on Sqoop import. This is the major component of Sqoop. If you are done with Sqoop import, you are 60%, 70% done. Rest of the stuff is 30-40%. Okay, so feel comfortable with Sqoop import. And also, as I have mentioned to you earlier, when it comes to developing an application to capture delta on daily basis, learning Sqoop import, learning Sqoop commands is only 10 to 15% of your project. The rest 85% is developing the application around it. In the past, I have used shell scripting to automate the process of exporting a number of tables on daily basis using a configuration file. That's how you should solve the problem. You cannot build application with commands, and Sqoop is nothing but bunch of commands. You have to use a programming language to be wrapped around these commands, which will dynamically generate the commands depending upon certain inputs, and that application has to be scheduled, and it should be smart enough to load the data into the target HDFS, or if you are trying to export, get data from HDFS and load into target relational database. Okay, so you have to visualize from the programming language or scripting language perspective to actually build the application. Learning commands is not good enough. Unfortunately, when it comes to interviews, especially in the in Indian job market, they emphasize on the commands. If I am the interviewer, I don't care whether he knows Sqoop or not. I will test his shell scripting skills or his programming skills. I can train him in Sqoop within 1 or 2 days. It's not a big deal. But teaching programming or scripting is the more complicated stuff. I will never focus on Hadoop skills if I am the hiring manager. But unfortunately, people think from different perspective, and they emphasize on Hive queries and Sqoop commands rather than the programming languages. That's where there is a huge gap. Even though there is enough skills in the industry, but the people who are selecting are the decision makers. Because of the lack of knowledge, they mix up the things, and they try to hire resources with the skills that are relevant for the application development. Okay, so anyway, thank you very much for joining today's session. If you have any questions, I will take those things. I will spend 2 more minutes. If you are typing, just say that I am typing and ask the question. Otherwise, I will wait for 15-20 seconds. And then I will wrap up. Okay, and also Tavantians, you have to give certifications once this course is completed. So take it seriously, practice, and ask questions in discuss.itversity.com or even in these sessions. I'll be glad to help you. I will be glad to extend this discussion beyond 2 hours and try to help you to clear the certifications. Don't hesitate, prepare well, and make sure you give the certifications as quickly as possible once these 40 sessions are covered, so that you remember whatever I'm explaining and able to give the certification exam. Don't wait for too long. And also leverage the lab. Try to come up with the scenarios. If you have any issues, I'll be there to support. You also can be part of that ecosystem and support others, so that you guys are proficient in these skills to work on projects once you are assigned projects. Okay then, thank you very much. Oh, cool. Parul also completed Databricks Spark certification. So I have to discuss with you guys, Parul and Snashish. I will follow up in an email, and then I would like to discuss about how the certification was. It will help me to improvise on the content, at least from the certification perspective, when I teach in other companies. Okay. That's good to hear. Thank you very much to letting me know, and congratulations. Snashish is another one who actually cleared the certification. Okay then. Thank you. Catch up with you tomorrow. Bye. So people who are on Hangout, just hold on for a moment. I hope you guys can see the screen. So again, if you want to prepare for certifications and if you want to practice, please join the lab if you don't have resources. Even if you don't join the lab, we will be there to support you. Joining the lab is not mandatory, and lab cost is not very high. It's only $14.95 if you go for 31-day subscription. If you go for 6-month subscription or 185-day subscription, it is $54.95. And slowly and steadily, I will be increasing the tools or ecosystem in the lab. We will be providing Cassandra, MongoDB, Cloudera distribution, many other things complementing this one. We'll not be able to do the dedicated support for everything, but we'll provide as many tools as possible for you, so that you can learn and gain confidence and start working on the projects. Yes, Mac. Yeah, you can ask any question if you have. While he's asking the questions, please share with your friends. It's very easy. You can click on this video, click on share, and you can share on any of the links. Please click on the like and help me to reach out to more and more people. I don't want to spend money on marketing using AdWords or any other approach. I will be relying on the word of mouth, and in return we will be reinvesting at least 20-25% of the lab revenue to increase the capacity of the lab, and we'll be adding more and more tools to the lab. Okay, so any question, Mac? Otherwise we'll wrap up and catch up tomorrow. Okay, then see you tomorrow. Thank you for joining the session. Have a nice one. Bye.